This one is on Alycia Bollinger. Um, I first met Alycia Bollinger at the Boulder Public Library. Her and Alycia both. There was a young woman named Maddie Boa, and she liked to hang out down there with the homeless people because her dad was beating on her. One day, Maddie Boa came down. She was visibly shaken. She had some bruises on her, and she was crying. And she explained to me that her dad was beating her at home. He had found out that she was a lesbian. So, as much as I didn't feel comfortable with them being down there, or with Maddie being down there, or any of those children being down there, Officer Abel Ramos and Officer Jenny Paddock, when I spoke to them about it, they said that these young women had as much of a right to be there as I did. Now, the reason that I approached them wasn't because of the beatings that Maddie was enduring at home. It was because they were down there hanging out with the drug dealers. Not the pot dealers, but the actual drug dealers. Mostly the juggalos that were bringing in the heroin. And Maddie hung out with a couple of twin girls whose names I did not know. One day, there was a guy by the name of Arturo and another one by the name of Emery, and I had given them blankets, or sleeping bags, I'm sorry. And I used to go around every morning to the people where I knew that they had slept. I used to go around and try to wake them up before the cops got there to give them a ticket. Well, Emery and Arturo slept underneath the Boulder Public Library. When I got there, Emery was in a sleeping bag with one of the twins, and Arturo was in a sleeping bag with the other. I didn't know that these girls were 13 or 14 at the time. I just knew they were definitely underage. And Emery and Arturo, I ripped their asses, of course, and I told the twins that they needed to go home. And I didn't see them for a few years. Well, I was over by the Broadway and Pearl, just behind, there's a bank just off of Broadway and Pearl Street, and there's a drive-through there, and it's right behind the Sundown Saloon. Well, these two twins walked by with a couple of older gentlemen, and they were holding hands with these gentlemen, and one of the twins saw me and ran over and gave me a hug. And both of the twins spoke to me, and they gave me their information. I figured it had been a few years. They were probably close to old enough to hang out with or talk to or whatever. And they told me to hit them up on Facebook, and I did. So, didn't really think anything of it. I mean, they'd given me their names so I could look them up on Facebook and send them a message. But after that, it was really just nothing, you know. I mean, I wasn't really thinking about them. I was mostly trying to take care of my own fucked up situations with people like Josh Hughes and my job and a bunch of other really messed up situations that were going on. So then Alycia, or Natalie, got back a hold of me. This is about 8 months later, and she was 18 by then, and we had a conversation, And her sister, Alycia, I had seen her with Pierre Byron. Pierre is the guy who Dino stabbed Brian Farmer and Jared Wallace at his house over Haley Smith, starting a bunch of drama and not allowing Dino to leave. She was, according to Pierre, she was jumping in his window of his vehicle and jumping on his hood and things of that nature. Now, although Dino shouldn't have been trying to drive home drunk, the fact is that Jared Wallace and Brian Farmer were going to get violent with Dino over Haley Smith. So Dino got out of the vehicle and stabbed them both to death. But Alycia, I told her I needed to see some ID if she was going to be hanging out. They were at the Starbucks, her and Pierre. And she showed me her ID, and sure enough, she was 18, so I didn't really remember if it was her or Natalie. And later on, when I was messaging Natalie, I found out that it wasn't Natalie that was there. I mean, like I said, it takes me a while to learn people's names. And the situation with Natalie was a bit different. She showed up when I was going to kill myself. I was tired of the Boulder police harassing me, and I was tired of not getting any sleep. And my back was pretty messed up. I'd injured it moving a gun lathe. And Natalie walked in as I was going to kill myself. I got some pills from a guy named DJ Wow, who is a drug dealer down there. And DJ Wow gave me 37 Vicodin, and I was going to eat them in the bathroom. And that's when Natalie showed up, and Natalie and I spoke for a couple hours, and then Maddie showed up because Natalie had seen me in the window. She was on her way to see Maddie Boa on the courthouse lawn. But when she saw me in the window, she completely forgot about Maddie. So, we'll fast forward a bit. Natalie had tried to get me a job working with bees, like basically canvassing. And we became friends, and she gave me a ride out to storage so I could lighten up my load because I couldn't walk a block. Well, me and Alycia didn't really talk a whole lot back then. Then Natalie had some issues with her boyfriend, Tim Beeson, and he was getting violent, and he had stolen her dog, and she was working for a family friend who had tried to have sex with her, and she decided that between having sex with him and not having a job, she would rather not have her job. Now, by the way, she was working 3 jobs at the time, and she kind of had to. She had a pretty decent drug habit, which we had discussed a little bit. Well, she kept on telling me I was the only thing holding her together. And so I left Colorado. Candace Bondurant came and picked me up, and I went to her house, and I got a job and got a vehicle. And I know this is supposed to be about Alycia, right? So, this is where Alycia comes back in. While I was gone, Natalie had let me know that she couldn't handle being in Colorado anymore. Everybody was on drugs. Everybody was accusing her of being on drugs, even though she wasn't, and it made her want to do drugs more. And her sister was supposed to come rescue her. So, me, Maddie, and Alycia were going to meet up in Boulder. And I got a hold of Aunt B, and Aunt B got a hold of her niece, and I was supposed to go down there and visit them because at first Natalie and Alycia were going to drive to Virginia and they were going to visit me in Chapel, Nebraska on the way. Well, then they weren't able to do that and they were going to get on an airplane, and Natalie called me and she really wanted to see me, and she was pretty hysterical actually. And she told me that she wasn't going to get on the airplane unless she saw me first. So when I went down there, the day that we had all agreed on and all arranged, me, Maddie, Natalie, and Alycia, we all had agreed on this day to meet. And it had been just after I had to move out of Candace's because I lost my job from heart problems. And I was staying at Aunt Bee's house in the spare room. And they didn't answer their phone. And then, of course, I had a doctor's appointment for a stress test to check out my heart, and that was in Julesburg, Colorado. So I didn't stick around, and of course, my ride, they couldn't stick around either. They have lives to take care of, too. They couldn't spend a week there or anything crazy like that. So I went back with them to Chapel, Nebraska at Aunt Bee's house. And as I was on my way back, that's when Natalie and Alycia got a hold of me, and they were sad that they didn't get to see me while I was there. Well, I'm not the one that turned off their phones. So we'll fast forward a bit to when Natalie was going to get on the airplane to Virginia. She didn't want to get on the airplane to Virginia unless I promised that I would come see her in Virginia, and I told her I would. And when I got to Virginia, after rescuing Jamie and the boy, because I had started the trip once already, and my vehicle broke down, I turned around and rescued Jamie and the boy, and an owl, by the way, and then I headed back to Virginia. I had to stop and earn the money to go, and when I finally got to Virginia, these young women were absolutely wonderful. They didn't like where I was staying. When I first got to Virginia, Natalie had let me know that I couldn't show up at her house because of what her mom would think. So I didn't go to her house. And I had brought her some art supplies, and I had sent her some art supplies through the mail too, along with a picture of Samuel L. Jackson as Nick Fury. And Alycia was working at the Cricket store over at the Chesapeake Mall. So they invited me to go to Virginia Beach, and I went, of course. It was pretty cool. That's where I held Natalie's hand, and she had broken her leg, of course. That's really what made it so that it was an emergency, is that Natalie had called me and said that she was going to kill herself if I wasn't already on the road. And then she literally tried to kill herself. She wrapped her Saturn around a telephone pole. So when I was in Virginia, Alycia is the one that I really spent the most time with, and she was great. I mean, she's self-absorbed and talks about herself a lot, but she was very good to me, and so is Natalie. Natalie was sad because she was messed up on pain pills, opiates in specific, which when you're trying to kick heroin, that doesn't help much. And me and Alycia, she talked mostly, but when we were at Virginia Beach, that's the day that Alycia had told me that I should come stay behind the Cricket store, and that her boyfriend worked just 2 doors down in the same building at a Starbucks, and since I had been hanging out at a Starbucks, it just seemed natural. And everybody at that Starbucks was totally cool to me. They treated me wonderful, including Alicia's boyfriend, who Natalie hated. She couldn't stand the guy. Um, but he was nice to me. And Alycia, she used to invite me over on her cigarette breaks and her lunch breaks to basically come listen to her talk. But she had helped me to get a phone. Um, she had also had a conversation. They invited me to 4 different places while I was there. The first one was Virginia Beach. The second one was the pagoda at Norfolk. The third one was Elliot's Coffee Grounds on my birthday. That was after the hurricane, and I had further injured my back working for Labor Ready. Alycia hooked me up with that job. My phone wasn't working, and Alycia had hooked me up with that phone. It was Natalie's old broken phone. And Alycia was trying to pressure me to get an apartment there, her and Natalie both. And Alycia had actually looked it up. Natalie was trying to get me a job with her mom at Vico Construction. Um, and, they were just good to me. But that phone was pretty fucked up, and I had a pretty bad panic attack. All of my safety network was gone, and Alycia, every time me and Natalie were going to talk, Alycia basically just dominated the conversation. Natalie and I really didn't get a word in edgewise. On my birthday, that's the last time I got to see Natalie. Now, I'd taken a wheelchair. I got it from Melody Harms in Chapel, Nebraska. Her and the animal control lady there, her name is Duffield, is her last name. I went to high school with both of her daughters. And they hooked me up with a wheelchair. It was an old piece of crap, and it was basically one that you had to be pushed in it. And I took that over to Natalie's. Of course, I was invited at this point. And Alycia had been inviting me to her mother's house for a while. And after she hooked me up with that phone, she quit her job literally 10 minutes later. So it's one of those things where she was going to show me how to use the phone and just never did. I was having issues, and I was able to use my computer to do some of the stuff on the internet. If you look back at that period of time, you can see where there's a lot of typographical errors, and there's a bunch of stuff that doesn't really seem like it fits. That's all the stuff that was sent from my phone. And then you see the stuff that's pretty clear and pretty concise. That's the stuff that was sent on my computer. So you can see the difference. Now, the last conversation that Alycia and I had there was, I was telling her about losing my safety network and about how I hadn't slept, and I was pretty dehydrated, actually, by that point. But I didn't get severely dehydrated till my birthday. But the last real conversation, one-on-one, that me and Alycia had, which me and Natalie never got to have one of those, Alycia said, "Sean, you just need to be loved." And, to this day, I agree with that. But also, because I'm different, I'm not really accepted by society. Now, Alycia and Natalie and I, we were friends. The fourth place that they had invited me, Natalie had invited me. She wanted to go to Lynchburg. She wanted to take me to Lynchburg. Just me and her. Which, I don't know how I felt about that. But by that point, I really felt like I was being more burden than help. And I really needed to talk to Miss Natalie one-on-one, and she'd been pressuring me to talk to her one-on-one. And, like, on my birthday, for example, she was she was pretty depressed. Her and her sister were fighting over a boy at the time, and Alycia again dominated the conversation, and Natalie had been in a car accident like just a couple of days before because one of her friends was drunk and in love with her, and she wouldn't do what he wanted, so they got into a car accident. This was her, I want to say, fourth car accident in like less than 2 months. The first one, her tire blew. The second one is when she tried to kill herself. The third one was during the hurricane on October 8th of 2016. They were sideswiped. And then the fourth one was just before my birthday when that guy was being a jackass. Now, I was having a severe panic attack over that telephone that was pretty fucked up, and Natalie seemed kind of agitated, actually, that I had gotten that phone. Natalie's phone didn't work for shit. Sometimes she could call, and sometimes she couldn't. Sometimes it would text message, and sometimes it couldn't, and her voicemail box was full, so, like, I couldn't leave messages. Same thing with Alycia's, but the phone was auto-dialing, and it was a big pain in the ass, and Alycia was typing stuff at me like, you showed your true colors, and so on and so forth. And when I had a panic attack and I got stuck outside of their house, this is on the 23rd of October. This is 5 days after my birthday. I've already been severely dehydrated for 5 days, and I haven't had any sleep in 5 days, maybe 6, I don't know, because the day before my birthday, I didn't really sleep. I got a little bit, but not really. I was in too much pain. But I got stuck in the road outside of their house on the 23rd. I was on my way there to try to explain to them, I'm having a panic attack. My phone is fucked up. I can't get in contact with any of the people that I need to. I kind of feel like, I'm doing more harm than good by being here. And, if that's the case, I really don't want to be here. And I really was missing my loved ones in Boulder. And Alycia, I don't know what transpired inside of the house or who called me a stalker or whatever, but I do know that the police showed up and I was not arrested. They recognized that I was dehydrated and I was overwhelmed. The officer who took me to the hospital anyway, but the other officers, while I was en route to the hospital, took the liberty of fucking up my vehicle. Laura Nelson can vouch for the fact that the issue I had with that vehicle was an issue that she had had with it previously, because I got that vehicle from Laura and David Nelson. And from there on in, it was just Alycia spreading rumors everywhere that she could. She spread rumors to Maddie Boa that I had stalked her and her family and that I had threatened her and her family, and I hadn't. I just got stuck in the road and was having a panic attack. After that, it was just nonstop hell. I mean, I'd gone to Boulder a few times to go see my friends, and a couple of those times I actually got to see them without having to deal with anybody threatening me or assaulting me or anything like that, but most of the time I was dealing with people threatening and assaulting me, and it all started off the same way as you guys can see on, type up Natalie Marie. You'll see Natalie's Facebook page. It started off with that I had stalked her and I had threatened her family. That was the starting rumor. And then it had escalated. And you can see, I don't even have to tell you what it escalated to. You guys can go on her Facebook post and go all the way back to the very beginning of her last public post. The very, very beginning. And you get to see that she called me a stalker, but she didn't call me those other things. That was other people saying those things, other people going out of their way to be as cruel as they possibly could. But also, Natalie had misled the situation because she was on heroin. And when she said that I had slandered her name, I have yet to see that slander. The thing is, Natalie was on heroin. So that's not slander. And that's by her own words and by her autopsy report. And her dad touched her inappropriately. Yup, Natalie's words again. Both in person and on the phone. Well, and in the email that she had sent me. I exposed her dad for a reason. Those rumors I was being assaulted for repeatedly. I exposed him and Tim Beeson for the things that they had done. Now, Alycia, she just plays pretty. She's pretty dumb, is what she is. See, she gets to play victim because of her size and because of her looks. But the fact is, her size and her looks are the reason that people were harming me physically. And she was made aware of this. And Natalie was made aware of this. And Maddie was made aware of this. And you know, here we are, 3 years after Virginia. Alycia is still playing victim. She is still on drugs. She's doing illegal things. I still care about her. But that's not going to stop me from dying this weekend. Alright, I probably won't die this weekend. It takes a while to dehydrate yourself to death. Or to starve yourself to death. Lucky me, I'm not going to exactly have access to water up there, and I'm not going to take any with me. Alycia was involved in a high-speed chase. Now, she's an accomplice. Her and her father both took part in this. So she is an accomplice. But because of her looks and because of her size, she wasn't arrested. I doubt if they took her in for a whiz quiz or took her in for a sobriety test or anything like that. But it scared the hell out of me when I found out she was missing. This is the second time that she had ended up missing. See, the first time was while I was in Washington State this year. And Bobby let me know that she was missing, and I made a post on a YouTube video on my other YouTube account, the one that was made specifically for finding missing people. And I also posted up Brandon Ratner's brother who went missing for a bit. They did find him too, thank goodness. But Alycia, the second time that she disappeared, just a few days ago, on the 19th of October, that was really bad. I had come here to where I'm at now specifically to kill myself. I'd gotten tired of places like where I went in Virginia, which is Brett Roloff's house and his girlfriend's house. Her name is Amber Jessie. And places like California with Shannon Alvarado, who is a really, really, really bad screamer. Very emotional and throws tantrums over stupid stuff. Quite highly verbally abusive. Now I'm going to tell you, I'm abusive as all fuck verbally on the internet. But I had to go back and ask people for help that I should have never had to ask for help. Alycia should have come forward and told the truth years ago instead of playing victim. But she's a heroin addict, what do you expect? I want the best for her, but you know what? At this point, my death is about the only thing that's going to allow me to end the pain, because I'm never going to be allowed an honest court date. And I got a lot of anxiety about that too. I mean, I want to live. I want to have a decent life. I want this war to be over. But then again, nobody took Natalie seriously until she was dead. When Natalie asked people for help, harassing me, they did so. When I asked people for help ending the war, I got treated like I was a stalker. Apparently, asking someone for help ending this shit makes you a stalker. It's disgusting. But I'd gotten a hold of Natalie, Alycia, and Maddie. All three of them knew what was going on. All three of them ignored it. All three of them allowed it to continue. I should have never had to expose Natalie's heroin habit. I should have never had to expose her dad for the things that he did. Alycia Bollinger is one of the most disgusting and ugly people I've ever met. She has no heart. She has no soul. She has no conscience. After telling me what a terrible person her dad is, and who is it that she was involved in a high-speed chase across multiple states with? That very same man who she, Natalie, myself, and Shelley Campbell had a conversation about trying to get Shelley away from him so that she and her kids could be safe. Yeah. These people protected the actual predator, while people on the internet threatened, harassed, assaulted, and abused the fuck out of me. Not just on the internet, but in person. Because a pretty girl on heroin's word is worth more than a sober man who's broke and doesn't have any family support. I went to Peer for help with that situation. I went to Chelsea Worsing for help with that situation. I went to Joanna Taylor for help with that situation. And in every instance, they either didn't show up or they wanted to tell me pretty words about how to think and how to feel. The fact is, Alycia Bollinger belongs in prison. She's a career criminal just like her father. Her father cannot be rehabilitated. You just can't do it. Alycia can, but you have to get her away from those people and those drugs. She's not going to be able to quit those drugs as long as she's in Colorado. She needs to move somewhere where she is safe. Somewhere where she doesn't have access to those drugs, though. Which means that she needs to be able to come up with the money to get her and at least one family member who is not on drugs and a new location. Maybe later on down the road she can go back and see her friends when she is sober and she does have the power to say no. But right now she doesn't. She's too weak-minded for that. It's not going to occur to any of these people that what they did was so incredibly wrong as long as I'm still breathing. When I'm dead, though, when I'm dead, it'll hit them. Might take a few months, might take a few years, but it'll hit them. And Alycia will look back and she'll remember Virginia and who I was before that, and recognize that all the changes that I made because of abuse, because of her slander. Alycia Bollinger's slander in specific. I was the one who was being threatened, harassed, intimidated, assaulted, and stalked before Natalie's death. I needed help. But I'm too easy to take advantage of because I didn't have anyone actually in my corner. I didn't have family. People just wanted to text me how to think and feel. And that's their idea of help. I guess that's Alycia Bollinger in a nutshell. She was wonderful in person, and so is Natalie. In person, they're worth dying for. But they're rumors, and because they're pretty and small, they were able to manipulate people, whether intentional or not, it doesn't matter. The fact is, people were manipulated into harming me over that. And because of that, I had a severe panic attack that shut me down. And instead of people recognizing that and helping me with it, they blew me off. I don't hate Alycia. I hate what she did. I hate that she didn't come forward. I hate that I had to deal with so many internet wingnuts because the police wouldn't do their jobs. I love Alycia, don't get me wrong, but I believe in loyalty above all else except honor. I know that there is no honor in my family. There's some in my older brother Rabbit, but as the years tick by, he loses that. Natalie's family has no honor in them. Loyalty to people without honor, well, that's just asking for a situation like this. Alycia never should have been in that vehicle with her father. But she did by fleeing the state of Colorado. She's going to be spending some extra time in jail for that. And she'll probably blame it on me. Not that it matters.